Welcome back to the Tom and D podcast. And man, we've been having some really A-list guests, and we're going to be obviously airing these in the future. But we've had a couple of, big time celebrities on the show. So that's always exciting. It's better than interviewing my mom and my best friend.
No, we've been on a fucking tear, but you said we're going to be airing these in the future. And yes, that's the future as we record it. But as people are listening to it, it will have been in the past. So,
man, this is confusing.
I know. It's like a little time warp happening here.
I'll have to mention it to my therapist next time I'm about this time warp business.
Right. And just up the voltage, I guess.
Up the voltage.
Tom and D.
Two middle-aged idiots. Speaking of therapy, you asked me about that. You asked me what I did yesterday afternoon. And I go to therapy once every couple of weeks. And people think that, why do you go to therapy? What, do you have all kinds of problems? And I always say, you know what? I go to therapy to deal with those who don't go to therapy, because it's amazing how much I get out of it. And she's my age. I've never had a female therapist.
Is she hot?
Sha. And so she's been helping me through a lot of little things, everything from dealing with 8 months on the market for my house, all the way up into, dealing with people in traffic and trying not to be so, flipping as many people off as I have been lately.
Yeah. Well, when you texted me that, when you said I went to see the therapist, it had a space between the E and the R in therapist. And so I read, I went to see the rapist.
Well, we don't want to call her that, but I will tell you something funny. Once I was thinking, man, I got to make some money. I was in LA and I'm a pretty good massage, I'm pretty good at massage. So I made this fake certificate, but I spelled it wrong and it said message therapy. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work too well. That's a dead giveaway.
Oh my God. I just got really icked out when you said I'm a good massage therapist.
Well, all the ladies that I've dated over the years have always said I got strong hands, So we got a great guest today, man.
Yeah?
Yeah. I met this guy years ago in my neighborhood, actually. He was during the Underground Music Showcase. He was doing a little comedy thing in Sobo 151, this hockey bar around the corner. And I was just laughing my ass off. And he didn't even look prepared. He literally had a notebook and he was going through, and I was just, everything he said, everything he did was just hilarious. Turns out this guy has had a special on Comedy Central, his own half-an-hour comedy special. He's been on Seth Meyers. He's toured the world doing comedy, and I don't want to make him wait any longer. But Ben Kronberg, the funniest man I know.
Oh, hi.
Hey, Ben.
He's got his notebook.
Is that the notebook?
No, it's one of them. But this is actually I picked the wrong one. This isn't even a notebook with jokes. This is just a
grocery list.
Yeah, this is my Trader Joe's wish list.
Well, if you're gonna, I have some to add to it. These right here, they're pickle flavored chips, and if you like anything like Darren was talking about, his favorite chips are the one with the vinegar and the salt. It's very similar to that, but it's got some dill in it. Yeah. And it's got some pickle juice probably in there somewhere. So
dehydrated pickle juice dust. I love it.
Love pickle juice dust, man. I snort
you
the
into
stuff.
That stuff. Yeah.
Just sniff it all up.
Uh-huh.
So how you been, buddy? Last time I saw you was a few weeks ago. We ran into each other at one of your little watering holes on Colfax, and I asked you to do the show, and you sounded enthusiastic, so we're glad to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't been asked to be a part of anything for a while. You get into your late 40s, and people stop asking you to do stuff.
Especially like children's birthday parties and stuff.
Uh-huh. Exactly. No, I was. You were talking about the massage, massage therapy and brain therapy and stuff, and I was thinking, I think only women should give massages because I'm a misogynist.
I send you a joke. See, every time I think of something funny, I send it to you.
Yeah.
Maybe you can add it into your routine. But I think one I sent you about massage was, the Reiki massage where they don't touch you, but you ask for the happy ending, and how would that work? I just said run with it.
I do like that. Yeah, I actually haven't been performing for I would say over a year now. since I started running shows at Denver Comedy Lounge, I've kind of waned from performing and just doing more producing now. And so it's interesting because I still get joke ideas, but I don't really necessarily have any place to put them except, maybe giving them to another comedian if they say something that I have like, oh, I have this idea. So I've kind of shifted gears with that whole thing.
You own that, don't you? The Denver Comedy Lounge, or are you just part of it?
Yeah. I own it and book it, and it's an LLC, so it's pretty easy to own something when you just get an LLC, and then you just pay somebody for the space, and then you own it. But we don't own anything,
But you told me when you first started that you were doing all the introducing the comedians and kind of doing a little half set like in between things. So you're not doing that at all now?
Yep. No. There's just two different brains, I guess, and two different trajectories of hustle that you need and to be a comedian. I was doing comedy for 20 years or so and just trying to travel and grind it and get all the make use of all the opportunities or create opportunities, but now I'm in a position to kind of give people opportunities, and to be somebody looking for opportunity and giving people opportunity is a conflict of a lot of things. And it's the ego can get kind of drained. And I'm surprised that when I see people doing it for as long as they've done it, obviously I think once you've made it to a certain level and you're making a lot of money, it's sort of like, well, you've painted yourself into a corner, so you have no choice. But for me, it was kind of like just a natural, because when you're getting up on stage, you want to have the best set, you want to be the funniest, you're thinking about what you're going to say before you go on stage. And then after you get off stage, you're thinking about what just happened and processing it. And it's a lot of ego action. And if I was trying to run a show and be in that space too, I would forget to, turn the mic up first. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
These basic essential things that just to produce a show, you're just like, in your own head. So it's sort of like, now I host the orgy. I don't go to the orgies. I watch and I eat guacamole and
right.
Nice. Well, do you miss that? Do you actually miss being in the orgy?
No, no, because I host an orgy every weekend. Two on Friday, 3 on Saturday, and I see. It's nice to see other people doing it and going through the thing and watching them go through the ups and downs of like they had one great set and one not good set, and then you got to figure that out. I don't miss that at all because it's an EKG of experience that it really kind of runs you through the ringer.
I wanted to ask you about your Comedy Central special. First of all, I'm bummed that you can't watch the whole show. There's clips of it on YouTube and maybe even on Comedy Central's website, but the whole show, I've had a chance to watch it a few times, and then I got a new DirecTV receiver, and of course, everything that I had saved is now gone, but there's some really great stuff. How did that all come to fruition? Because that's not a small gig to have your own half an hour special. How did that come about?
Yeah, it was never anything that I thought would happen or wanted. It was, I think I'm a determinist. I'm more of a determinist than a free willer, or a free willy, however you prefer to say it. I think that sort of like I didn't, I got into comedy by stumbling, my mom bought me a guitar my last semester of college because I always wanted a guitar. We grew up with a piano, and I always resented being forced to play piano. It was too serious, and guitar was, you're not going to get any chicks with the piano, but with the guitar, you might, if you play really good piano, you're not getting any chicks. But if you play kind of shitty guitar, you might get a couple chicks.
Yeah, and also you can walk through an airport with a guitar over your shoulder. If you come in pushing a fucking piano, you're
exactly.
no chance at all.
Exactly. I got a guitar, and then that kind of sparked some creativity in me to just play and make up silly songs.
Yeah.
And then 9/11 happened, and I graduated spring of '99, and then 9/11 happened in 2001, of course, and then I got really kind of scared, but also inspired. There was something that happened with that event that I was like, oh, and then I wrote a song called Ballad of the Jihad.
The Ballad of Jihad.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing like 9/11 to spark some comedic ideas.
Well, exactly. And no, you know, I'd never thought that would have done it, but it did it. And then I started just making up songs. And then I worked at a bar in Capitol Hill called the Park Tavern, which is now a taco place across from a Whole Foods. And I was working there, and they had an open mic on Tuesdays, and I decided to try one of these stupid songs on a Tuesday, and then I just kept doing that because it was something to do, and then somebody at one point was like, "Hey, that was funny. You should try that at the comedy club downtown." And I was like, "Oh, okay, maybe I will." So then I got into that, and then so that turned into that, and then guitar 9/11. Bar job, open mic, somebody just noticing or observing that they thought I was funny, and then my ego being stroked, and then I started to pursue the attention because I'd never really had a purpose or any sort of validation outside of some parental pats on the back. I was never in sports or anything where I achieved anything of any note, and then now I was kind of like, oh, this is something that I'm into, that's fun, that I don't have a plan for it. I wasn't thinking I was going to be a comedian. It was just something fun to do that I kept doing over and over again. And then that led to, more sets at the comedy club, winning entering into their contest and losing the contest a couple times, and then eventually winning it. After winning the New Faces contest, I submitted to the Aspen Comedy Festival, and it was like the last year, 2007, that it happened. And I ended up getting in. And then from there, I met, my first manager representation, and some other people, met the booker to Jimmy Kimmel, got on Jimmy Kimmel, just because I got a guitar when my last semester of college. You see how the determinism of it works is sort of like this. And anything that I've ever really had direct intention for, even within comedy, once I was doing comedy, the things that I would really try hard to get, I wouldn't get. And the things that I was just aware of that were in my space, and it allowed me to just kind of, I live in New York now, and people from Comedy Central are just happen to be always floating around looking for talent. And I happened to be at a show when some people there were, looking to, for stuff. And then I ended up, I had a room in Greenwich Village that was this like very small basement, maybe held 20 people. But I ran the show. So I was able to record a half hour of myself doing comedy. Cause you can't really, if you're not anybody in New York, if you're nobody in New York, you can't really get along, a great amount of stage time. But right. I had my own show, and I was just creating my own opportunities, and that allowed me the space and the time to do that. So then once I submitted, they, to my chagrin, is that the right? No.
Yeah, I think that'll work.
To my something or other, they were like, yeah, cool. And I was like, wait, what?
So it was that indifference that seemed to...
Yeah, kind of like, how when the idea of like you go to the bar to meet somebody, or you go to the nightclub to meet somebody and hook up, you don't, but then you go there, you just go there with your friends, and you're not even thinking about anything, and it allows you to be yourself a little bit more.
And that's when the chick rolls up, usually.
Yeah.
Sadly, I don't know what that's like.
Weren't you on Last Comic Standing? I want to hear someone told me that.
Yeah, I did Last Comic Standing. And that was something that I didn't necessarily want to do. And it was kind of an easier opportunity that like they're letting anybody do it, because it's kind of like a competition show where they're looking for bad comedians as well as good comedians.
Right, exactly.
And
were you the William Hung of the group? I mean, that was like, remember when William Hung went on America's Got Talent or whatever, and he became huge?
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, and I didn't necessarily become huge from it, but it allowed me another campaign of here's my comedy story, and Roseanne told me to go fuck myself, and they definitely edited. Do you remember Running Man?
Yes.
How that started, and how they they reframed him as the butcher of Bakersfield, you know, and even though he was doing something good, but they recut it, and that's kind of what they did with me. It was that they're you know, the choices that I made, they exploited and made it so like this guy doesn't know what he's doing,
Right.
which didn't necessarily matter because anybody watching the show was like, you know, who knows why they're watching it. Morbid curiosity or whatever. And so then I did this campaign that this guy kind of helped me out with called like, it was a hashtag go fuck yourself, Ben. And I had a bunch of people make videos and memes that were like telling me to go fuck myself. So I leaned into it, you know?
You know, that reminds me of a little bit. I actually did do you remember that show called Blind Date?
Oh, I love that show. Yeah.
Well, the episode that I'm on was actually like the Hall of Shame. But what happened was, it was like you talked about how they edit it and make it look. With mine, the producer, the director was telling me every wrong thing to do, so I would totally fuck up. So here I am with this girl. He's like, dude, she's totally digging on you. Now's the time to put the move on her. Try to give her a kiss after dinner, you know? And I'm like, well, that was like the, you know,
you were set up.
Yeah, that was what it was all leading up to, is me getting shot, you know, arrow shooting, like hearts bouncing off me, like showing me that I'm a loser, you know?
Ben, can you go back and unpack that for us with Roseanne telling you to go fuck yourself and how that led to the campaign of go fucking yourself?
Yeah. So it was something that happened that it was kind of a shock because she like told me to go fuck myself. She flipped me off. I don't know if they aired the flipping off part. But yeah, it was just.
And what led up to that? Like,
well, okay, so I had this bit that I would do to kind of start any show, and it wasn't what I always used, but what I chose to do on that show was I got up on stage and I just sat at the microphone and I looked through my notebook for a while, and maybe for, you know, a minute or so, and you only have like 3 minutes to do your thing. So I'm doing this thing, looking through my notebook for like a minute, and then the joke is, and I say like, what? Like you guys start working right when you get to your jobs?
Yeah, you guys start working as soon as you show up to work?
Yeah, yeah.
You fuck around for a while.
So it was a joke about that, you know, like the slow clock in. And then, you know, she was like, I think you wasted a lot of our time, you know, and, you know, that was kind of her first comment. And the other comedians was like Russell Peters and I don't know, one of the Wayans brothers, maybe Damon Wayans, I think was the other judge. And then they kind of all like, you know, and one of them was like, yeah, actually, I think that's a joke, like a stolen joke, like somebody else used to do that bit. And it's another interesting thing of what, you know, originality is. Like you see people like, oh, I think I saw somebody play those chords in that order.
Yeah.
And it's like, where do you think comedy is coming from? Is it coming just from me and this originality, or are we all just observers and collectors of information and modes, and then we create our own like mixtape or our own version of the thing that we see? And yeah, so there was that little bit of like, as though I was plagiarizing something, and so yeah, they just kind of kept taking me down, and I sassed back a little bit. I forget what I said, because being in the moment of, you know, being filmed and other things without being able to reference the actual footage of it, which I don't know if there's any that even exists of that show. But I had this really great, I remember I had this really great, like, you know, button-up sweater that I got from H&M. And, you know, I was feeling good and full beard, and it wasn't gray. And it was, you know, I was like, oh, I was feeling all right. But then the cool part about it was that when I got backstage and after it happened, all the comedians that were waiting to go up or had already gone up, there was kind of this camaraderie about the moment that I felt like I was maybe a, what do you call that? Not a martyr.
Anti-hero?
But yeah, the anti-hero or something along those lines, where it was just sort of like, yeah, fuck this thing. Like nobody there really wanted to do the show, but everybody wanted to win it because of the money and the whatever. But they had already just like everything else, they'd kind of already, I think, scoped out who they wanted to win.
Right. Well, dude, that's a badge of honor to be told to go fuck yourself.
Yeah, and she's a Scorpio, so it makes sense. And I'm a Pisces. What's but you know what your sign is, though, right?
I know what my sign is.
What is your sign? You're Gemini.
A stop sign, I've been told. I don't know. That wasn't funny. That was funnier in my head than it really was. Okay. No, Taurus.
Taurus. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. The steadfast Taurus.
Steadfast, stubborn. Doesn't that apply to everyone, though, in a way?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the Zodiac is like the Taco Bell menu. It's all different variations and combinations of the same ingredients, but some things are crunchier, some things are chewier.
Some things are spicier, some things are...
Yeah, and we all get diarrhea at the end of the day.
That's what we all get at the end.
This podcast is sponsored by Taco Bell.
And then just
eventually.
Fart noise. What's your sign, Tom?
I'm a Virgo.
Oh, heck yeah, you are. Typical Virgo.
Yeah, I don't know what that means either.
See how clean my place
Virgos are very organized, and I dated a couple Virgos, so I know.
So Ben, I'm curious. So what was the last time that you were on stage?
I mean, the last official time that I kind of performed, I like judged a roast battle, and I'll still do kind of some of those things just because it's a little bit different of a mode. But it was in Eureka, California. They have this really cool indie festival called Savage Henry Comedy Festival. And I went there. It's real foggy. I don't know if you've ever been to Humboldt County or flew into Eureka. Super foggy to where like sometimes the planes can't land or take off. So you got to stay there for an extra day, which is, one of the things that happened. But I did a couple of shows there. One show was like at a coffee shop that nobody went to. And I made a remark about sex trafficking because they put me up at this Super 8 motel that had, like, right when you walk into the check-in desk, they're like, please report any suspicious behavior of sex trafficking, because I guess this is a big logging town and a big throughway for, whatever. And I guess there's a lot of sex trafficking that goes on there. And so I made what I thought was a joke, and then people are like, the people in the audience actually knew some people that have been trafficked. And I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, right.
And that's
I know my audience.
Yeah, that's another one of those surprise gifts that comedy gives you is like, kind of putting your foot in your mouth but then having some real conversations and real moments of life because, it's the funny stuff. But then I had another good show after that, luckily, that had a lot of people at it, and I didn't think that was going to be my last time performing, but it just kind of was like.
Was that recent?
No, I mean, time flies.
That was his. If you weren't paying attention, Darren, that was the second show that he did in Eureka.
Yeah, yeah. And, so it was a year. It was probably a year and a half or so ago. And,
okay.
But it was a really fun town, and I had a really good time, and. But then when I got back, I think I was like, just felt natural to be like, okay, that was fun. I've had a good run. But I'm also doing this other thing where I'm, booking shows and putting on shows and kind of helping the scene out and helping, keep comedians getting on stage and telling jokes. And, and that was, it was, never a conscious choice made to where I've gotten to, but just sort of like this happened and then this happened and then this is where we're at,
Right. Were there any jokes or like stories, funny stories, and any comedic bits that you had from like your earliest days, that time that you first put the guitar in hand and started putting some comedy to it that, kind of lasted through later in your career? Anything that had some longevity?
I mean, I would say pretty much everything. There's a couple different schools of or directions that comedians can go. One of them is kind of like, how, I don't know, Louis C.K. would be like, oh, I'm working on my new hour and I take my last joke, or I take my first joke and I make it my last joke. He's, Jerry Seinfeld or these people. And so then there's this kind of industry standard that trickles around that says like, oh, you have to come up with all this new material. Oh, you've already done this. You've burned it. You've recorded the album. You've burned it. which is true for like maybe famous people who people are, everybody is consuming. And, but for people who have hardly been seen, like even 10 years into my comedy career, 15 years into my comedy career, I had done enough things to be seen by a good amount of people, but nothing that ever catapulted me to a level where really people were paying attention to what I was doing. So I could go around the country, say any jokes that I'd ever written from the beginning to current, and they would be pretty new for people.
Right.
Like nobody really knew my act. And so I knew that, I can bring in this old joke right here. And it was a lot easier than trying to be like, I got to come up with some new stuff, or, telling an audience that has never seen you before, this is a new one. It's like, well, every single joke is a new one to them.
Yeah. It's like seeing some band at the High Dive and they say, this is off our new CD. It's kind of like, dude, I've never listened to any of your fucking CDs.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can play anything right now,
And that's the game, and the fun that the ego plays with itself is sort of like thinking it's more important, or people are paying attention more than they are. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was just sort of like, using and incorporating old jokes allowed me to stay comfortable on stage to where I could be in the moment and come up with something new, or maybe a new addition that made it fresh for me, not necessarily, making a difference for the audience, but just something like, I've told this joke 1,000+ times, and I just came up with like a new little addition to it.
Is there a particular style or brand of comedy that, whether you include it in your act or not, that you are attracted to, or maybe repulsed by? Something that's kind of like your go-to, or something that you just like,
Well, I mean, for me, I when I got into comedy, I liked, irreverence and edgy stuff and taboo things that you weren't supposed to talk about. To me, that was liberating. Sort of magnetic part of it was like, everywhere else everywhere else in society or your experience, you kind of have to, bite your tongue, watch what you say. Here's this space, which, has definitely been shifting in and out of this, but like, here's a space where I can say and think whatever I want. I can use free speech and creativity, and also like, touch on topics that shouldn't be funny, or figure out a way to take take abortion and make it funny, figure out a way to take 9/11 and how do you make this tragedy funny? How do you make this very polarizing topic funny? And to me, that was a fun puzzle, because, it was just sort of like, I don't know, if you can figure out how to make somebody laugh, or people laugh about something that shouldn't laugh about, that's like this weird kind of victory.
And oh my God, if you can put abortion and 9/11 together, it's fucking hysterical.
Exactly.
I remember one time, Ben, and I think you were standing in front of the High Dive or something, and I hadn't seen you in a while, and I asked you, I said, so and you said, I have a show going down in Colorado Springs tonight. I'm going down there to do this show, and I said, well, do you have any new jokes or new material you're going to be telling or whatever? And then you told me this funny one. It was the only time I've ever found bestiality to be funny, but you talked about the dog and they getting hit by the car. Do you want to tell that one? Because I think that one was hilarious.
I mean, I don't know if I can even remember it, because it's one of those things. I mean, I can remember the premise around a lot of those things is kind of like, one of them was what's worse. I had this series of jokes where I'd ask what's worse. A guy in a wheelchair who really needs to be in the wheelchair, or a guy in a wheelchair who doesn't need to be in the wheelchair. Like or something about something, and then it's like,
welcome to Walmart.
Like what's worse, the stolen valor, or what's worse, beating your dog or fucking your dog?
Right. Well, I think your joke, if I remember it correctly, you'd say something like, you can drive down the street and you run over a dog and the dog dies and you don't get in trouble, but yet someone comes to your door and you're fucking your dog and you go to jail, but you ask the dog, would you rather get fucked or get hit by a car?
Yeah,
You'd
right.
probably rather get fucked.
Oh my god!
Exactly. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that was actually the better way than I ever wrote it.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
I can always do it for you since you're not on stage. Just feed
Thank
me
you.
the jokes, and I can.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing better than a good dog fucking joke, except for 9/11 and abortion.
Yeah, those two are really good.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Do you need a voiceover? Need a voice that turns heads and sells your story, or makes your explainer video actually fun to listen to? Say hello to Fry on the Fly Productions, the audio playground of Tom Fry, Voice Arts Award winner, veteran actor, writer, musician, and certified man of 1,000 voices. No, really, the Denver Post said it, so it's gotta be true. It's basically law. And you know what? It's also the very same Tom that's here on the Tom and D podcast. Not me, the other guy. He's not as cool, but he's got a better voice. Tom's been doing this for over 25 years, which means you've definitely heard him somewhere. Maybe hawking Arby's, or narrating your favorite documentary, or doing a dead-on celebrity impression that made you wonder, wait a minute, is Morgan Freeman selling lottery tickets now? From national commercials to network TV, stage to screenplays, Tom has done it all. And then he built a state-of-the-art audio production facility to do it even better. So, you need a voiceover with that pro-grade polish, or a script that sings, or a song that slaps? Fry on the Fly brings that full creative package from mic to final mix. So if you're looking for a top-tier voice talent, expert audio production, or someone who can actually slip into about 12 different accents over lunch, Fry on the Fly is your guy. So just drop him a line at tom@fryonthefly.com. He probably already sounds like someone you trust. And back to the show.
But I really enjoy being in this new space again, that I never thought I would own a comedy club or run a comedy lounge, outside of like just booking a show to have a room to practice things in. But now that I do, I was able to see kind of the other side of it. And now I can be, because a lot of comedy club owners or bookers aren't necessarily allies to comedians, because you know they're more opportunists, and I have that in me too as far as the situation. But they're coming at it not from like wanting to help comedians out. They just want to fill seats. And
Yeah.
I definitely want to fill seats and sell tickets, but I also want to help comedians out, because I know that in my, my journey and my path that I took, it was just sort of like, you need opportunities, and sometimes you get to work with cool people or nice people or people that, I would always be afraid if I had a set, I bombed a set at a comedy club that I got booked at, that I would like, oh, not coming back here or whatever. And now I can be maybe more soft and kind to people who have bad sets, and just know, like, because I've been there. Like I've had the great set and the shitty set and everything in between. And to get better, you have to be bad. You have to be willing to make mistakes over and over again. And you have to be willing to just repeat it so many times, where then, you can both work through those times when nobody's laughing, and you can manage your ego when you thought you had the best set and you were the funniest person and all those things. And, so I kind of get to help or be, be more supportive or,
Well, you're giving these people opportunities, and you're not necessarily just, like, you're coming at it from a different angle. You're not just the guy that wants to put fannies in the seat, make the money. This guy bombed. He's never showing up here again. It's like, you'd either go backstage and say, it's all right, man. I mean, it's like, I know you're funny, come back next weekend, dude. Let's, just relax a little bit. I mean, you're giving people opportunities, which is something that most comedy club owners, aren't looking at that as one of the main things that they're doing.
Well, to that point, what are you looking for when you're trying to find a comedian? Then that, not only will, you do something great for that opportunity for the comedian, but also, you're trying to entertain a house too. So what are you looking for? And then when somebody bombs, what do you tell that person?
Yeah, those are good questions. I'm like, I have my own style of comedy that I, do, which is like one-liners and songs and things like that. And I mean, every comedian has their own strengths or their own angles. So I definitely look to put together a show that's diverse, more so in humor than in male female race. Um, those things are occasionally considered as well, but in Colorado it's sort of like, well, I need a person of color on the show. Well, sometimes it's like, good luck, because
Yeah.
Right.
you know what I'm saying? And just the ratio of men to, way more dudes and way more white dudes than anybody else in general in comedy, but definitely here in Denver. But there's a good amount of everybody doing stuff. But and also, like, choosing to have a female comedian is also a choice to have a comedian that has a different perspective probably than another, male comedian. So I do look and consider those things, but a lot of times it's just sort of like, I need a show that has this, I need a show that has 3 to 5 people on it, and I need to book those things. And usually people are they seek me out more. Like, I don't necessarily have to seek people out, because people, when you're, I get emails, Instagram messages, Facebook messages, text messages, another Instagram account message, like, so it's just sort of like, and then I decide based on who's asking me, who I can put up or who I can,
That must be fun, though, to be able to do research like that. You can get an email from someone, and they send you a link to something that they did, a video.
Yeah.
I mean, you're kind of like, you're getting to watch these comedians, and obviously comedy's your life.
Mhm.
So what a better thing to do than just, when you're sitting having your morning coffee, I'm going to check out this guy's set from, what he did a couple weeks ago or whatever.
Yeah, and I even, like, I'll probably be more apt to book somebody based off of recommendation of somebody that I already know is funny and trust. Looking at a video can be difficult. I can usually tell in the first, minute or so if, what they're all about, just their stage presence or their confidence or their whatever.
Lack thereof.
Yeah, lack thereof, and I appreciate it, and I can't get back to everybody, and a lot of times people think that, like, they're like, hey, just hitting you up again, and I remember feeling that rejection of somebody not responding to an email that I'm trying to get booked. I'm trying to get booked, and they haven't responded, and I'm like, maybe they don't like my comedy, maybe all these things, but really it's a lot of times it's just a logistics thing of, like, I if I responded to everybody that messaged me, I would never not be sending a message. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So I've had to learn that and just manage that and be like, okay, people are going to be disappointed. And this is one of the things that I learned from therapy, like you were talking about, was learning to normalize disappointment. And back, growing up and things, and growing up as a people pleaser, it's hard to, I don't want to make people feel bad. I don't want to disappoint people. I don't want to feel bad myself. I don't want to be disappointed. But then that became this sort of negative mantra of avoidance, as opposed to accepting, like, yeah, bruises happen, disappointment happens, and managing disappointment is one of the key factors in making anything happen, pursuing anything, especially something that is so fantastical, or like, is that a real thing? And, like, people, you can do comedy for 10 years and people still don't take you seriously as a comedian when they're talking to you, because they've never seen you and they haven't experienced it. And they're like, so that, yeah. And that, there's this Tony Robbins quote that he once tweeted, and I don't know, I think he goes by Anthony now, but back in the day he was like Tony, I'm just Tony. And,
Totally.
a little bit more approachable. And he tweeted, the key to success is being able to deal with massive amounts of rejection. And that's this other thing of, like, the key to success isn't being the best at the thing. It's being able to deal with and persevere through all of those things, all those rejections, all those bombings, all of those jokes that you tried that didn't work, or wanted to work but they never worked, or people not accepting you in your path, or you thinking people aren't accepting you in your path or taking you seriously. And because a lot of that could just like build up and be like, well, too many negative things are happening right now, and I don't like this negative experience, as opposed to looking the negative parts of the experience that you're having and not just focusing on them and not just isolating them as something that is revealing to you your self-worth or your value, but it's sometimes we're not focused on the big picture of like everything that is happening, and this needs to happen also for this good stuff to happen. The stinky exhaust needs to come out of the car, as well as the expensive gas that needs to go into it needs to be there, as well as the propelling you forward and making you try. Like it's the balance of the stuff. And if you just focus on how the bad stuff, it can get to you.
I got something cool I just remembered. I don't know if you remember this album, AM/FM.
Oh yeah.
What are you holding up, Tom? Describe it for us.
Well, it's the album cover called AM/FM, but I actually had a chance to meet him, and he wrote me a nice little note on there. And he also explained, like on the back of the album, there's all these little teeny things that went around there. He told me all about that.
Oh,
and
nice.
And the thing is I've always been a fan of George Carlin. I'm sure you are too. I mean, the guy was a genius. But I was introducing him on stage when I was doing a radio gig, and they said, "Oh, you don't try to talk to him or anything. The guy's he's kind of an asshole, whatever." But I just happened to see him backstage, and by the green room, and I had my own little green room, and I said, "I have a copy of AM/FM. I was wondering if maybe you wanted to sign it." He's like, "Yeah, go get it." So we talked for about 10 minutes, and I told him when I was a kid, I said I would do these bits from this album. When my mom would have people over for dinner, I'd be like, shit's a nice word, friendly, happy, kind of word. But when a narcotics agent goes through his whole life not knowing that shit means shit, boy, he'd be surprised on the first day on the job. But anyways, I told him that I would do these. He thought that was pretty cool. And then about 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, I get this knock on my door, and I open it up, and George is there, and he's like, "Is your mom still alive?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Tell her I said hello." And he walked. So I called my mom the next day. I go, "Mom, George Carlin literally said to say hello." And I thought that was, he was a really cool dude, though. But
And now a word from our sponsor.
got a podcast that needs producing, especially one with a video side hustle? Then you need 224 Media, the brains and the experience behind this very podcast, plus a whole bunch of others featuring some of the biggest names in healthcare, entertainment, and other binge-worthy stuff to listen to and to watch. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, "Oh, great, a shameless self-plug," you're right, but also wrong. Because this isn't just filler until a sponsor swoops in. Those sponsors, our DMs are open. It's a heads up that 224 Media doesn't just crank out top-tier podcasts. We're also behind slick commercials, compelling video packages, TV pilots, and award-winning documentaries. Basically, if it involves a camera and creativity, we're in. So if you're looking to make something awesome and maybe have a little fun doing it, 224 Media is your go-to. We've got the experience, the talent, and just enough caffeine to make magic happen. Go to 224media.com. Spelled just like it sounds. TWO24media.com. That's TWO, the number 2, the number 4, MEDIA.com.
And back to the show.
Meeting people is interesting, especially like being doing the thing and meeting the person that does the thing that you do, but better at a higher level. It's both, super intimidating, but also hopeful, just to be in the same radius or space as somebody, being on the same page with them. Very validating. And a lot of people, a lot of emails that I'll get will be, people listing their credits, and a lot of people's credits aren't like TV credits anymore, but it's like, I've opened up for Bill Burr. I've opened up for, so those are a lot of like, which is kind of a cool thing to be able to use. Like, I was on the same show as this, so I'm, validated and legitimized. And so,
hey, Nathaniel Rateliff opened up for the Rolling Stones. I mean, how cool was that, dude?
Uh-huh.
I mean, put that on your resume.
Yeah. I did a they did a Christmas show one year, and it was kind of right before they were popping off. Like they were doing their Christmas show at
Was the Ogden or one of those
it was at
places?
the Ogden, yeah.
Yeah.
Now they do it probably somewhere else, but
No,
it
they
was
do it at the Pepsi Center now.
yeah, right.
Or not the Pepsi Center, Ball
Or
Arena.
Mission Ball, yeah. And so I gotta. He asked me to do it because I knew him from South Broadway and stuff, and he asked me to do it, and then but he had like all of his like new like the music management and agents around and stuff, and I did what I do, and it was a Christmas show, and they didn't like what I did.
Oh,
Making friends everywhere.
Yeah, and I think he was fine with it. Everybody else was fine with it, but it was kind of like, this isn't the image that we want to portray.
yeah.
And it's like, you guys are pussies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one of yours that I love. You said, so do you sit when you pee? I raise your hands. I do, because I always want the option to poop.
Yeah, I like to pee with the option to poop.
I do too, but it's not just because of the option. It's just I'm lazy.
Yeah, and it's the first time you said that when I was watching one of your specials on the internet or something. I'm like, dude, I do sit when I pee, and no one else I know really does. It's like, I just like, it's like, why should women be the only ones to? But you said because women are always pooping. I think this is really cool. I mean, the first time I met you, I knew that we had a similar sense of humor, and I'm just like, I love your humor, and I could talk with you all day. It just, you're one like my friend Caprita, who we've had on. And I've told you, Ben, about David, about how we, have a similar sense of humor. We do those, what's the difference betweens? You say, what's the difference between getting stoned underwater and taking a bath? One's toking in a sub, one's soaking in a tub. Like we do those little name wordplay things all the time. And I knew you were just like that when I heard a couple of your sets. I'm like, he does the same kind of thing we do. I love that, man. Yeah, and
I've been curious, especially now in the later age of diagnoses of like, being neurodivergent or on the spectrum or, the ADHD thing. It's sort of like, I wonder if this is a sign of, my own spectrum, my obsession with just, playing with words or like, talking about things that I shouldn't, or is that, what's the origin of it, or does it matter?
Yeah, no, I think that's creativity to its fullest. When you can go beyond just what's obvious and actually, come up with things that to me, that's pretty amazing.
Well, it's great just to be able to push some buttons sometimes and just, just to see what sort of reaction you can get.
Well, that's what I always try to do at your Thanksgiving parties, but you always tell me read the room, Tom.
Well, I mean, that was a little beyond. I mean, it's like, okay, I got my family here and you're walking around without pants. It's like, Jesus.
I'm doing Ben's entire set that he pissed off the Nathaniel crowd with at his Thanksgiving dinner, It's not always good,
Well, I mean, and that's the difference between like talking about the difference of, killing a dog or fucking a dog and actually fucking a dog.
Yeah, I pretty much fucked the dog.
Like, this is hilarious. Ben does this in the set. I'm going to do it for real. I'm actually going to fuck a dog.
And everybody has a specific dog that they think about when thinking about fucking a dog, and it's never a pit bull. It's never a pit bull.
I used to go to like Best in Show and think of some cute little, dog from that movie.
Oh my God.
Yeah, something hypoallergenic.
Exactly. Something hypoallergenic.
Something with doodle in its name.
You're not going to sneeze with.
Something with doodle in its name.
Something with doodle in its name. Something that's not going to shed too much. You don't want to shed a dog hair in your pubes. I mean, there's just certain things you just got to look into.
Maybe no tail just for easier access.
Oh my God. Okay. On a similar note, I was talking to one of my sisters who lives in like the small town in northern Texas, just so fucking remote. I don't know why she's there, but she had to go see a doctor recently, and there's no doctor anywhere near. It's just like a retired vet, and it's like, oh my God, you're gonna come out of the doctor's office with a fucking cone around your neck.
And a trazodone prescription.
And ringworm.
Right. right.
Uh-huh.
Man, this has been so much fun, dude. You're hilarious, and I love you to death, man. I'm so glad you were able to come on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, for sure.
Thank you so much. You are absolutely fantastic, and I hope to get to meet you in person. We'll come down to the club sometime and
Yeah,
check it
that'd
out.
be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Fridays, Saturdays, let me know. We do shows. Sometimes we do special events on the weekends or like Thursdays or Sundays with like whatever. But yeah, Fridays and Saturdays are kind of like the main comedy nights. And there's sushi and sake. It's in the back of Colorado Sake Company, which is
Oh, wow.
brew their own sake, and they've really upped their food game. It's all kind of an izakaya food menu, which is just Japanese small plates, not including but not limited to sushi and stuff. So yeah,
That sounds good. We love
date night,
sushi.
good hang.
Nothing
Absolutely.
like sushi, sake, and comedy.
Yeah.
You never
a
thought
good
of it together, but
combination.
it's like all these other comedy clubs. They're like, we got some pizza or chicken fingers. It's like
Right.
grown-ups over here.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, cheers.
Take care.
I didn't think we would ever have dog fucking being a topic on our podcast, but we have officially crossed the line.
I knew it was a matter of time. Come on.
You knew it.
Yeah.
Well, that was a lot of fun, man. I'm so glad Ben was able to join us for this. And
Yeah, that was a blast. Dude,
yeah,
we
that
are
was
on a
great.
fucking tear.
we're on a tear, man. We're getting some great guests.
I know. I mean, I said it before. I'll say it again, that people are saying we are soon taking over Mel Robbins as the number one podcast in the fucking world.
Some are saying that we could be number one by, this
That's
time.
right. We're
No.
people. We're people, and we're
people.
saying it.
All right,
All right,
Darren.
dude.
As always, buddy.
Later, dude.
Tom and D.
Two middle-aged idiots.
This podcast is produced by 224 Media with voice and audio support by Fry on the Fly Productions.